follow the shad, follow the shad. You gotta follow the shad. Right then, my Ned rig gets crushed. Hey, good morning, guys. It is Nick Mulbauer here, and today we are going to talk about one of the more interesting trips, maybe the most interesting trip of fishing I've had in 2023. It was interesting for a lot of different reasons, but I'm just going to jump right in and kind of go in chronological order of what happened that day. And we'll break down kind of some of the wins and some of the losses that I experienced last Sunday on my trip bass fishing. Precursor to fishing. I went fishing last Sunday, and prior to that, we had about a week of weather that had highs in the mid 90s, mid upper 90s. So it was a really hot week. And I think Sunday when I went fishing, it had been about 48 hours since the cool down. So it was just on the very edge of that water, maybe just starting to cool down. The water was still very hot from the previous week. And those were kind of the pre-existing conditions that I had going into fishing on Sunday. So I started out the day kind of fishing my usual spots because I thought the largemouth would kind of be on the pattern they've been running all summer, which was on cover on sharp breaks. So, you know, anywhere where I find shoreline and it breaks off to 20 feet pretty quick, you know, 10, 15, 20 feet pretty fast. That is what I've been fishing all summer. Either just pitching into rock, if you guys have been watching those videos, I've been pitching into rock on sharp breaks, substrate changes on sharp breaks, or I've been fishing shallow cover near sharp breaks. So I went all morning for probably 2.5 hours just trying different locations with those types of features, and I wasn't finding anything. It was lifeless. It was a dead zone. I guess I can't say that. I was catching smalls. So when I say smalls, dinks, I mean I was catching bass probably in the 10 to 12 inch range, which is not adequate for me. So I ended up catching, before I started really switching gears, which we'll talk about that in a sec, I was catching dinks or nothing. The other deal that was going on to that day that I began to notice was it was another very calm day, so I could read the surface of the water very well. It was just lifeless out there, guys. I was not seeing shad. I was not seeing, you know, on those quiet days, you can hear bass blowing up on bluegill in the shallows. Like, you can just hear them chowing down on things. But last Sunday, that was not the case. I was not hearing any bass blowing up on shallow forage. I just wasn't hearing any feeding going on. No life, as well as very minimal life on the surface of the water. I was not seeing shad busting the surface. Nothing was happening. Like, I was like, there's something going on here. There's been an obvious change in the winds. Literally, something was going on. So I did that until I felt like I had beat the dead horse for far too long. And, you know, I like to fish thoroughly. I changed lures. I did all the things I thought I should do, where I thought the fish would be holding on a summer pattern, and it just was not panning out for me. All that being said, angler I follow on YouTube, he's a professional angler. His name is Randy Blawcat. I recalled had just put out a video about what to do when you're only catching dinks. He just put this video up maybe a week and a half ago. It was like just a couple days prior to that fishing trip, and I was like, to heck with this. We are gonna watch this video. So I pulled out my phone mid-trip, and I was like, I'm gonna watch this video and see if I can get some inspiration, because this is not working for me. So I watched his video, and basically he said, you know, changing lures is not going to benefit you in this scenario. You are going to have to make a location change. You need to change your location. Those large fish are on a different pattern. They're holding to different cover. They're doing something different. Watched the video and I was like, all right, we're doing it. I'm flipping the switch and I'm going to completely change what I'm doing because this is not working for me, obviously. Like, what's the point in fishing stuff that's not producing, you know? It's like, let's make a change because I'm not out anything because, you know, this is not sufficient by my standards. So what I did was, in the back half of that lake is all shallow mud flats. Like, basically the whole back half of it is just shallow mud flats. The north half is deeper water, you know. When I say deeper water, is the deepest part of that lake is pushing low mid 30 foot is the deepest part. The back of the half of it, the mud flats, in a dry year that can get down to a foot or two. This year it's probably, you know, averages 3 to 4 feet deep. I'm telling you, maybe 5, 6 in a couple pockets, but 3 to 4 feet, the whole back half, all mud flats. And when I rode back there on my kayak, what I noticed immediately was, man, those shad are stacked in here. Shad are just stacked in here. I was like, there's got to be bass here. There's forage. Like, you know, put 2 and 2 together. There's something's going on here. So in the video, which I will be showing you, I'll be supplementing this my commentary with video, but in the video I make the comment right on the very cast I catch my first decent fish. So I'm like, follow the shad, you gotta follow the shad. Right then my Ned rig gets crushed by the best one thus far of the day. 3 hours in, I catch my best largemouth on a pile of shad, just right in the middle of the pile of shad.
Follow the shad, follow the shad, follow the shad. There it is. I was like, there's shad all over. Best one of the day. God damn.
So my Ned rig must have stood out a little different. Black and green, red fleck Ned rig. Pardon me, I lost my Ned rig hook because we're going to talk about those in a second. So got my first bite. Finally I got a decent fish. Kept fishing those mud flats. You know, I was just tossing around, kind of 360ing, fan casting all these shad to see if I could pick up another one. But, you know, I'm just not confident in fan casting shad balls because you are just competing with so many bait fish. Like, what's to say, you know, I got bit that first time, but that's a pattern that I have not succeeded in yet. It's something that I definitely could work on. So I went and did what I know best, and I was like, I'm going to fish shallow cover on these mud flats. And that's exactly what I did, and guess what? The big bass started showing up. I started pitching to laydowns, just any little isolated chunk of wood on those mud flats, and it was almost like there was a bass there on those isolated laydowns. There was a bass there about 50% of the time, 50-60% of the time. A largemouth was sitting on that shallow mud flat laydown. They just tucked themselves up under it like they did all summer long on the sharper breaking laydowns, you know. Catch that first fish with the shad, and then we switch to that lay down pattern. This is where we're at in the day. This is like 4 hours in. I went on for fished about 5.5 hours, I think, Sunday morning. First decent trip in a long time. Next problem is I could not land a decent largemouth to save my life. I'm talking 3. These are probably 3-pound fish. You know, 3. Some of the better ones that I lost are probably pushing 3 pounds, 3-4 pounds. Okay. Got a couple, maybe a 1.5, 2 pounders in, got a couple of those, but the big ones all got away. And let me tell you guys, I've not lost a fish all year. That has not happened. I've been just setting hooks and just doing very well for myself this year. So it was mind-bending to me to lose that many fish in one day. When I'm saying I lost that many fish, I'm talking 3 or 4. 3 or 4 fish that just shorted it, just lost them in the fight. And that's failure, guys, and that's something that I have to learn from. That's something I have to figure that out. All said and done, the takeaway was I figured them out. I was having the toughest time in the morning catching dinks or next to nothing. Made a location change. You know, that was what Randy Blockhead's video was about, making a location change. He said you cannot stay in that area and throw different lures at them. That's just not going to give you the results you want. You need to make a location change, and that's exactly what I did. And that's when I started finding the big bass. Okay, where are we at here? Okay, so what happened with losing the largemouth? All right. So what I did was, after I had got done that day, I kind of reflected, because I could not figure it out, guys. I kind of beat the dead horse with screwing up too. So I went back home that day and reevaluated what I had done that day. Like, what did I do wrong? I think 3 things happened. 3 things. One, on me, well, I guess they're kind of all on me, is I had my drag set too loose, okay? I was reeling and pulling drag at the same time. I don't like that. I don't know what I was thinking. I think I'd fished 2.5 hours with having next to no bites, and I had just gotten impatient that day. So it kind of made the rest of my day suffer. Having that drag set too loose, they were just peeling drag as I was reeling. And that I can't have that. I need to have my drag a little bit tighter, and once they start peeling, that's when I have to just kind of let up and just let them do their thing. But I was reeling against their fight, off limits. That's my bad. I screwed up. The second problem was they were in shallow water, and they just fight different, you know? I found out that these bass, when I've been fishing deep breaks all summer, like, they just kind of dive. You know, they have the option to go off for deep water, and the fight is just a little different. In the shallow water, they're just zigzagging back and forth because they only got a foot or 2 of water to work with, so they can only go side to side or out of the water. So they were jumping a bunch, and they were just shaking my Ned rig. And so that's problem number 2. It was a different kind of fight, and I did not account for the fact that they were behaving different in that shallow water with how they fought. Excuse me. The third and most important thing that I think I screwed up on was my Ned rig hook. That's simple. And that's why I have my Ned rigs down here. So as I said earlier, I was fishing black and green. This is the exact color I was fishing. Black and green Z-Man Ned rig. Red fleck. And this isn't going to be a great example, but this here is kind of the hook I was fishing. Okay. This is a 1/10, I think. I was fishing a 1/6. Okay, so a bit bigger. This is way larger, as you can see, way larger. Okay, but this is too heavy. I think this is probably like a 1/4 or something like that, and I don't like that weight. That's too heavy for me. In the situation I was in, I did not need to fish a 1/4. Maybe if it had been windy that day and I was dealing with chop and stuff to keep the bait down there, I'd go with a 1/4. But I mean, too small, too big. But what the important thing is look at the hook gap there. Look on the 4th, look how much deeper that is. I need a hook like this. I think those bass were shaking me because it's such a shallow depth of the hook. I don't know what they call this part of the hook. Pardon me for that. I'll have to figure that one out. I'll have to learn. But I think it's just so easy for those bass to shake that. I need something like this. Okay? I need them to be able to saddle their lip in there and keep them pinned better with a hook like that. I think that is the key takeaway from that trip, guys. that. So, long story short, we learned a lot last Sunday. I think that there's some big changes coming with fall, and we just have to be ready for it, and sooner than we think. When I got back from that trip, I even read an article about mudflat shad migration, and it was spot on with what I experienced Saturday. They said once the overnight lows dip into the 50s and 60s for the first time of the year, it's like a light switch, and those shad will start pushing shallow up on those mud flats. And we're not talking small mud flats, we're talking about large, spread out mud flats, just like I was fishing. They said the bass will already be there, or they'll be quickly behind those shad, and that is exactly what was going on that day. I can't say like if they were feeding on shad a whole lot at the time I was fishing, but they definitely followed them, because the big fish were nowhere to be found in the places they had been a week or two prior. They're gone, and they were on those mud flats. Not to say there weren't some big ones out there in that deep water somewhere, but like they weren't where I've been catching them. So make that change. Don't be afraid to do a 180 and go out of your comfort zone, make big changes, because you can get some big results. Even though it did not pan out for me and I had some things I had to learn from, just about, remembering to just stay patient regardless of how crummy your day started. Be patient, fish slow, fish slow with that Ned rig, and just really feel it out, feel for those fish, anticipate the bite, guys, anticipate it. I don't think I was doing a very good job of anticipating the bite for Sunday. So that's the breakdown. I hope it's thorough and helpful. Be ready for those fall seasonal changes. I'm ready for the seasonal changes, so I suppose the fish are too. So y'all take care. I'm going to keep pushing out videos. And you know what? I'm going to be the guy and say, we're going to do this thing. And, I'm looking at analytics, and a lot of you dudes watching my videos are not subscribing. That helps me, because I definitely want to push this thing. I've kind of made up my mind that I kind of want to, really try to do this for real. So help me out, get me out there, and I'll keep making these videos. I'm going to do it regardless, because, it's a labor of love, like I said, but it'd be really helpful, and it's very encouraging to have people subscribe and leave comments, because this is a conversation, guys. Like, I'd love to hear from you. Give me tips, man. I'm not the expert. I'm just telling you guys what I'm learning, okay? I'm not an expert. I'll teach you what I do know, but, I always love learning a thing or two. You can never learn too much about anything, including fishing. So I'm going to let you guys go. It's getting long again. Take care, guys. Peace.